It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum. And I'm all out of gum.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon.
Winner, winner, sheen dinner.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Hello, welcome back to A Boring Revolution, your number one news source for everything in regards to The Boring Company. Coming to you today with a very important topic, possibly the most important topic of them all, which is The Boring Company's core technology, the technology that will signal either the prosperity and future growth of The Boring Company or its ultimate demise. And that is the Prufrock tunnel boring machine, also known as a TBM. I'm very bullish about this machine. I have heard a lot of very, very good things about Prufrock-3. We've seen very small changes and iterations with regards Godot, Prufrock-1, Prufrock-2, which is the current machines that are being used in Las Vegas, and I'm feeling pretty good about this machine. I'm hearing some very, very good things on the grapevine about this particular machine. A lot of people reaching out, telling me various little bits and bobs about this machine, and I think this is an absolute game changer. And I just wanted to go over it again. I know I've said this before, but this is a big thing. This is a big thing for the Boring Company, and it needs to be emphasised as to how important this particular machine is for the prosperity of the Boring Company. So I'm using the term game changer. That is used way too often for a lot of things, but I really do truly believe when I say that. So it looks like Prufrock-3 won't be coming this year, but we should, with some luck, see it early to mid next year. What can we expect? Well, Prufrock-3 will be a game changer in terms of performance. Performance is the key term, because when it comes to mining, it's all about performance, reliability, and obviously the cost per TBM mile, which I often bring up when I'm talking to people who are somewhat hating or doubting the prospects of this particular machine. Operational efficiency is absolutely key, and that includes everything from the maintenance of the machine to physically how many people it takes to operate that machine, how much it costs to run that machine, the actual processes behind the machine that ensure that machine has the materials and the resources it needs to progress forward in a timely manner, consistently, without delay. High performance. When I say high performance, I mean that this machine can really cut through the ground without having to stop repeatedly. It's a very, very key indicator of how much progress the Boring Company have made is in regards to the high performance. Because at the moment we have a powerful machine, which is very, very powerful for its size, but it's not being given the opportunity to really, you know, go full out. And hopefully with some other changes, Prufrock-3 will be very, very high performance, even on its bad days. Cost improvements, all about cost, all about that cost per mile. How can you drive the cost down? Where is money being wasted? What processes are eating up the most money? What are, you know, what wastages are being lost along the way, and where can improvements be made? Standardization. I cannot highlight this enough. It's all about standardization for the Boring Company. All these things link into standardization. All processes, all parts of the tunnel, whether it's the equipment in the TBM, to the processes of maintaining the TBM, to the actual tunnel lining, to the road deck, to the actual processes of removing spoil and bringing things into the machine, whether that be segments or grout. All those processes, all those parts, all the bolts and the concrete and all those things are a standard size, a standard specification, a standard setup. The problem we have at the moment with the current tunnelling industry is we have 60, 70, sometimes 80 different standards for all the various sizes and types and processes in the machines, and it's an absolute nightmare. And we need to get away from that. We need to get into the kind of mentality of doing things in a set way. Okay, so I have heard from a very good source that there is going to be a major change when it comes to the TBM control room or rooms, because they're going to have multiple TBMs. But that in itself is a little bit of a trick. Now, the way it typically works in this industry is you have one guy in the TBM close to the excavation chamber, as you can see this gentleman here, and he is watching the various processes. He's there, able to see what's going on and to actually, you know, feel the progress of the machine and make an assessment as what changes need to be made on a, you know, a minute by minute basis almost. And he's in there basically, you know, him and possibly another colleague, because I'm assuming they work around the clock, 24 hours a day. However, there is a big opportunity here, and the opportunity is the following. You may have one operator, you may not even have an operator, or you may have an operator who is assisted by AI, and that one operator controls 4, maybe up to 6 machines from one control room, and that control room is not in the TBM itself. Obviously it's wired into the TBM, but it's at the surface, and you've got one guy essentially monitoring, let's say 4 machines. That's a reasonable number, and the actual system monitors the TBMs as well, and is able to analyze and diagnose issues or problems, or to assess what and it will actually automate various changes rather than him having to do the various tasks. As you can see by this control room, we do have touch screens, and we've got various screens here, but it's still quite an old, especially this particular lineup here is I mean, it like looks like something from the 1980s, but the Boring Company has a lot to add to this, and I suspect that not only will AI and automation be heavily integrated, and in fact I know for certain that's what they're kind of aiming to achieve, but in the sort of medium term you will have an operator, but potentially in the very, very long term, we're talking maybe, you know, 12 to 15 years into the future, you might not even need an operator for most of the time. You might have someone who goes in there occasionally, but the literally is running itself. Now you will still have people in the TBM because there are certain processes that they need to do, but largely the operation of kind of operating that TBM and ensuring it's working in the correct parameters is going to be a fully automated process, and that will in itself be controlled by its own operating system, which is something that the Boring Company is, I strongly believe, developing in the background, and it's nothing like what the current tunnel operators are using. It's far in advance of that, and it is based on a lot of things that have been done at SpaceX and Tesla. And the advantage of this is if you have one operator doing 4 machines, that is a massive cost saving, and also, unlike people, it's not going to get tired, it's not going to make mistakes, it's not going to go on a, you know, half-hour bathroom break, it's not going to be, you know, ill and not be able to come into work. It's going to be, you know, operating at 99.9% efficiency for like, you know, most of the day, if not most of the year. So that'll be a big change, and you'll have your little control room at the surface, and it'll be a fully kind of integrated unit where there's multiple screens, and it looks a bit more like an airport where you've got air traffic control, something like that, and you're managing multiple planes, and you're kind of surrounded by these various screens. So that in itself is a big change, and should drastically improve performance as well. if you're able to monitor the machines correctly and make the changes in seconds rather than looking at a screen for multiple minutes thinking what you need to do. Obviously as well, if a machine is progressing at you know, 10, 15, 20 meters per hour, it's important that you make quick decisions. If a machine's progressing at 1 meter per hour, it doesn't necessarily matter if you spend 5-10 minutes making a decision. Another big change, and I'm on good authority that this is actually about to happen fairly soon, is they're going to go away from kind of building this kind of in situ road deck using hardcore MOT compacted stone, that kind of thing, and then using a tarmac surface. It's such a bad system that they've currently got. It's not very level. They're going to move to a more precast concrete road deck. These are going to be standardized units. They have a concrete yard in Las Vegas, and they're going to start manufacturing these. There'll probably be maybe 2, maybe 3 types, as ultimately you'll have a straight running type and a corner type, and maybe a specific type for bank corners and things like that, and infills, that sort of thing. But mostly it will be standardized, and it will be brought in on the back of a truck, the rubber wheel truck that we've seen in the past, and then it will be assembled one by one. As you can see by this example here, the road deck itself is a lot higher than the road that we've got up here. You're looking at a gap between the top of the road deck and the kind of crown of the tunnel of about 2.4 meters, 7 foot 10 inches. What this also does, most importantly, is it reduces the cost of building the road deck, and ultimately drastically reduces the time it takes, because this is a dry process. There's no, you know, there's no going in there with asphalt and compacting it and you know, heating it up and that sort of thing. It's unnecessary. I only use a cold roll process at the moment for the asphalt, but still, it's a much better system using precast concrete, and the standardization that comes with that, and you've got the knowledge that segment is incredibly strong, is going to last a very. You've also got the opportunity to use this space underneath as well, which you can run various services through, sensors, that kind of thing, lights, maybe a drainage channel as well, and it gives you a bit more room either side of the vehicle. I think at the moment you've got something like a 400mm gap either side. You could possibly increase that to 500mm, which is that gap there. Another great thing about this is ultimately these road deck segments are not going to line up quite perfectly. They never will. But what you can do is still end up with a very, in fact, perfectly level surface by introducing a screed on top of that. That screed does not need to be particularly deep. We're talking about 65mm, 60mm, something in that kind of ballpark. When that surface wears down, you can simply grind it off and replace it with another surface, and there's no need to worry about wear and tear on these precast concrete segments. So this is a massive change that we know is coming. I've heard it's coming, and it will certainly reduce the length of the program and increase the lower the costs of the overall job. Banked corners as well, incredibly important, because you can increase the speed that vehicles go around the corners by potentially as much as 30% by using the bank corner. Trains do this. I believe they call it cant, so that one rail is slightly higher than the others. Usually it's around 20, 30, maybe even 40mm higher, and that makes a big difference for trains going around corners. For road vehicles like our Tesla above here, having a bank corner as below would make a massive difference, and you can still ensure passenger comfort as well, so it's not a big deal. I know I talked about this in a previous video, and I did a whole segment on it, but continuous mining, absolutely critically important. They're currently not doing continuous mining. They're using these trapezoidal segments, which is good. I'm not gonna lie. I think it holds back the machine. I think there's a better solution. Again, very strong rumour coming to my attention by multiple people as well now, 2 people, saying that they are looking very heavily at moving to hexagonal segments. I'm 50-50 on this one. They might stick with the trapezoidal segments, but if it were me, I'd go for these hexagonal segments, because much more efficient in terms of the process of moving the machine forward. You're talking maybe 150% improvement just by moving to this method, without any of the other improvements that are on the back end as well. So you can erect segments and thrust forward at the same time. The issue with this system, and the reason that I'm still a little bit hesitant to say this is what they're going to do, is there is slippage along these joints, and the accuracy with which you place these segments is quite important, and the actual process of monitoring the segments after they've been placed and retroactively fixing any of this slippage is also an important process. If they could eliminate the slippage completely, and there might be a way of doing that, but it's beyond my expertise, then they should consider researching that. But it looks like that this process is a lot quicker and will be introduced into Prufrock-3. Another thing that I've discussed in the past is using trapezoidal segments and this process by using what's called a bridging piece. So you'll use trapezoidal segments for corners, then you'll use a bridging piece which kind of is in between the two, and then you use hexagonal segments for long straight sections. Then you go back to trapezoidal for any corners or anything like that. And I don't think that would be an incredible... you obviously lose some time installing that bridge piece, but you will then gain the time by moving over to your hexagonal segments. Interesting topic that I might come back to it another day. Segment delivery and spoil disposal. As you know, the Boring Company is moving towards these conveyor belt systems, and initially these proved to be somewhat unreliable, but it looks like they've overcome those issues, and it looks like with a better design for the actual tunnel alignment, they could eliminate this problem completely. The issue that this creates is that you've got, you know, lots and lots of spoil coming into this area, and you have these like kind of spoil containment yards, which is this brick building here, and then all the spoil builds up here. In here you've got, you know, like 20-30 cubic meters of spoil, and then a guy comes along with an excavator, excavates it and puts it in the back of a truck. This is an inefficient process. So it looks like in the future they're going to actually have rows of trucks lined up, and they're going to actually have a conveyor belt that dumps the spoil directly into the trucks. Those trucks are always waiting there because they know that this machine is going to produce, you know, X cubic meters of spoil per hour, so they can predict how many trucks they need lined up at any time. And you've not got drivers waiting there for hours and hours. You know, they're usually only waiting there for maybe 20-30 minutes before they are then, you know, required. And that whole kind of logistics episode is being worked on right now and will come into force with Prufrock-3. We're also going to continue with the trucks that they use to move the concrete segments into the tunnel. That obviously will be at the bottom of the tunnel, and then at the crown of the tunnel you'll have your conveyor belt. So we know that's happening, and it's largely happening now, and that obviously makes continuous mining very, very viable. What else is happening? So we have seen a power increase with Prufrock-2 over Godot, and it's not been an excessively large power increase, but it certainly helped a lot. But the issue at the moment is the machine spends a lot of time standing still, and it's like having a boxer that's got incredibly powerful punches, but he's unable to land the punches on his opponent because his opponent's moving around and he can't get to him. With the improvements that I've stated previously in this video, those power increases suddenly become like a multiplier, like a catalyst, and they can mine the rock a lot quicker, a lot quicker. Potentially we could see a power increase potentially above 85% in comparison to machines that are typical of this size. Potentially might be a doubling as well, so 100%. They were already very powerful, these machines anyway, but that extra bit of power certainly helps them push through difficult situations, and it will be interesting to see if that comes from more powerful motors, or if they just introduce more motors into the setup, like we see here. Also, another option is DC power. So they're talking about having some kind of battery setup on the surface, and then they have like a large diameter high voltage DC cable that goes down through a ventilation shaft and then down into the machine, and then every sort of 2 miles or so they then plug in a new battery. And when I say battery, I mean multiple containers full of batteries that are trickle charged at night time, and they also have like a high voltage connection anyway, so it just allows more power with the DC connection, and the power, there's a lot, like multiple megawatts of power at the back end that they can draw upon if they need to, and that obviously allows them to use a much bigger motor than they currently use in Prufrock-2. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Prufrock-3 is going to be an absolute monster of a machine. Absolute monster. It's going to smash records. I think we're going to see in excess of 150 meters per day, potentially a lot more than that. But until we see this machine revealed, which hopefully will be a reveal event, I can't say for certain. But I hope you learned a lot from this video. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, as long as you don't write 15 paragraphs. You know, I'm not interested in reading 15 paragraphs. Please just keep it to under 600 characters. Thanks for tuning in. Please, if you've not already done so, like the video, and if you've not already done so, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon. Yeah, and hope you enjoyed that. I'm also available on Twitter if you've got questions or just want to you know, follow the process of the Boring Company. I've got a Discord channel where lots of interesting information, pictures, that kind of thing is posted. And you can support me on Patreon with just $2, which really does help the channel. Thank you. And speaking of my Patreons, thank you to all these wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. Look at them. So many people. And they all support me with a nice small donation. And this really helps me with the channel. I've got all this computer set up, this GoPro camera monitor, this incredible microphone that I keep getting complaints about. It's the third monitor that I've now purchased. Still get complaints. It is from all these people. I don't keep this money. I invest it in the channel, and you're really helping me. Thanks so much. Really hope you enjoyed that video and learned something. And remember, guys, don't be boring. I'll see you on the next video. Take care. Have a great day.
Hail to the king, baby.
Winner, winner, sheen dinner.